This unapproved structure is in clear violation of HOA covenants. It must be removed immediately.
I understand your position, but we have the approved permits right here.
At 5:58 a.m. on June 14, 2024, I opened my front door to a line of orange cones blocking my driveway like a crime scene. Cold air hit my face. The street smelled like wet mulch and fresh asphalt. A chain was looped through my gate latch, clinking every time the wind moved it. A woman in a robe stood at the end of my driveway holding a folder, and behind her the HOA chair leaned on a pickup truck like he owned my house. My car was trapped. My job started at 7:30. And they were smiling. I wish I was joking, but Karen seized my driveway over riparian rights using county records, and their settlement sign became real as exactly what I lived through. She waved her folder and said, "County records prove this is a riparian access zone. You can't drive over it." I stared at my driveway like it had suddenly turned into a swamp. Then I pointed at my mailbox and said, "My driveway is deeded to my lot. Not shared." She blinked like I spoke in another language, then tried to step closer like she could win by invading my space. I kept my voice calm, even though my coffee was still brewing inside and my patience was already gone. I said, "Let's talk at 9:00 a.m. with the board and actual documents." The HOA chair said, "We already talked. This is enforcement." The woman in the robe added, "You're lucky we didn't tow it." I asked what rule gave them the right to chain my gate. He tapped his clipboard and said, "Environmental compliance." A neighbor across the cul-de-sac cracked their blinds, saw me arguing, and disappeared. Another walked his dog the other way, like my driveway was contagious. At 6:07 a.m. I called the HOA office. Voicemail. I called the county non-emergency line to ask if anyone could tell me what riparian rights even meant for a suburban driveway. While I waited, the robed woman took pictures of my cones like she was proud. My phone shook in my hand, so I shoved it in my pocket and made a promise out loud. I'm doing this the right way. No shouting. No games. Just facts. I lined up photos, emails, and call logs in a binder. Timeline item 1 April 18th at 6:02 a.m. false trespass report filed against me. By noon I was at the county building, under fluorescent lights that made everyone look tired and guilty. The records window had thick glass and a little metal tray that scraped when you pulled it out. I asked for everything tied to my parcel, easements, drainage maps, riparian buffer notes, and any complaints logged on my address. The clerk didn't even flinch. She just typed, disappeared into the back, and returned with a stack that could stop a door. The file landed with 68 pages, all stamped and dated. She slid it over and said, "This is what's recorded. If someone showed you a screenshot, it might be old." Back in my car, I flipped through those pages like my life depended on it. The riparian buffer was real, but it hugged the creek behind the homes, not my driveway at the front. The county map even had a bold line showing the setback area, and my driveway wasn't inside it. The complaint log was worse. 3 complaints in 8 weeks, all from the same address, the robed woman's house. One of them claimed I was dumping yard waste into a stream that I can't even see from my driveway. And the county record she used? A printout from a workshop packet, not a recorded document, with my lot shaded wrong like someone used a highlighter in hope. I didn't sprint back to the cul-de-sac. I built a plan that stayed clean and legal. At 2:10 p.m. I emailed the HOA board, attached the stamped county pages, and asked for an emergency meeting with an inspector present. I also filed a request with the County Water Resources Office for a site clarification, because if they were going to yell riparian rights, I wanted the riparian people to say it out loud. Then I sent the robed woman a certified letter that said, "Remove your chain and cones from my driveway. Future contact must be in writing." I wasn't trying to win in the street. I wanted the win on paper, where it sticks. On June 18, 2024, at 9:20 a.m., the County Water Resources officer pulled up in a white SUV, and the HOA chair suddenly acted like this was a friendly meeting. The robed woman showed up with her folder again, but now her smile was thin. The officer asked one question, "Where is the creek?" She pointed vaguely toward the back of the neighborhood. He walked to my driveway, looked at the curb, looked at the map, and said, "This is not within the riparian buffer." The HOA chair tried to argue about access and community protection, but the officer held up the stamped pages and said, "Recorded documents control, not interpretations." That's when my neighbors started changing, right in front of me. At first it was quiet, but then phones came out like they were pulled by a magnet. A guy from 2 houses down whispered, "I knew that chain looked illegal." Someone else said, "She tried this at my place last year, but I gave in." In the group chat, messages stacked so fast I couldn't read them. Is the county here? Please tell me someone is recording. Another neighbor typed, "I paid a fine for a buffer violation and I want it back." A teen leaned on a bike and said, "This is better than streaming." Even the people who avoided eye contact last week were standing in little clusters now, watching, listening, ready to repeat every word. The authority part landed hard when a deputy arrived at 9:38 a.m., called in by the county officer for civil standby since someone had chained a gate. The deputy asked who put the chain up. The robed woman said, "The HOA." The HOA chair said, "It was for safety." The deputy looked at my deed printout, the plat map, and the complaint log. He asked the robed woman if she filed the reports. She hesitated, then nodded like it was a badge. The deputy said, "Patterns of false reports can be prosecuted." Then he told the chair to remove the chain and cones immediately, because blocking lawful access to private property can become a legal problem fast. The chair's face went pale like a screen with the brightness turned down. The street felt different after that, like the air itself stopped helping the bully. People held their phones steadier. Nobody laughed with the robed woman anymore. She tried to speak, but every sentence died in the space between her words and everyone's eyes. The HOA chair kept clearing his throat, like he could cough up a new reality. You could see neighbors processing it in real time. The board isn't all-powerful. The loudest person isn't always right. The truth wasn't even dramatic. It was a stamped map and a deputy who didn't care about attitude. And once the spell broke, it didn't come back. The robed woman looked around for support, like she expected backup clapping, but all she got was silence and camera lenses. 2 days later, the HOA's attorney emailed me a settlement draft, suddenly polite, suddenly careful. It said they would retract the violation notice, confirm my driveway access in writing, and refund the environmental enforcement fee they tried to charge me, which was $900. It also said the robed woman would stop filing complaints about my property unless she had actual evidence, and the HOA would pay my documented costs up to $2,400. The best part was the line about recording it. The attorney wanted the signed settlement filed with the county so it would follow the property, not just the personalities. I signed after my own consult, and when the clerk stamped it, it felt like a lock clicking shut. That summer, the neighborhood started acting like a neighborhood again. This was the second shift, the slow one that doesn't need sirens. People stopped whispering in corners and started speaking up in meetings. Folks asked for minutes. They asked for receipts. They asked who approved what and when. The HOA emails got fewer exclamation points and more attachments. The robed woman still walked her dog, but she walked faster, eyes forward, like she didn't want another camera catching her face when she said something wild. New neighbors waved at me like I'd been there the whole time, not like I was the next target. One evening, a guy I barely knew brought over iced tea and said, "Thanks for not letting them bully you." We all needed that. On September 1, 2024, I pulled out my binder one last time and slid the stamped settlement copy into the back, right behind the county map. The pages smelled like paper and toner, boring and perfect. My driveway was empty and quiet, just sunlight on concrete and the soft hiss of sprinklers. No cones. No chain. No robed woman with a folder. I didn't feel triumphant like a movie hero. I felt calm, like someone finally turned the volume down on a bad song. And if anyone ever tries the same trick again, I won't argue in the street. I'll just hand them the stamp. If you enjoyed this, hit like, subscribe, and share. Was the HOA wrong? Drop a comment.